It's important, if you're going to be a meditator, if you're going to establish a practice in meditation, it's very important to understand why you're meditating. And it's very important to understand that the origination of the practice of meditation was not just for stress reduction. In fact, it wasn't for stress reduction at all. The origination of meditation was to use meditation as a way of changing the experience of being a human being, a way of learning about consciousness, a way of practicing what it's like not to be thinking, what it's like to be able to experience the freedom and the calm and the stability of experiencing what it's like to simply be aware and to trust awareness as being intelligent, and to discover that until and unless you recognize your true nature, until and unless you're able to cultivate your ability to be present to life in such a way where you're not constantly thinking, and you know that you're not the thinker of the thoughts. Until and unless that happens, then you will be like the rest of humanity. You will be like most of the 8 billion people on the planet. You will be neurotic. You will believe you're your body. You will believe that you are the thinker of your thoughts. You'll think the voice in your head is you. And you will helplessly follow it as it judges and evaluates everything that's happening, as it judges and evaluates you, as it worries about the past and the future, as it is constantly fearful and concerned. And this will be the life you live. And without even recognizing it, you will be constantly at odds with life. You will be constantly at odds with other people. You'll be constantly at odds with what's happening. And you won't notice that this is the way your mind is. You'll think that the world should be different. The people driving their cars in front of you should be different. The people around you should be different. Even you should be different. And so you live with a constant conflict, constant anxiety, constant frustration, constant struggling, constant trying, constant hoping, constant changing, with the idea that if you find the right answers, if you do the right things, if you change things enough, someday, somehow, this conflict will be resolved. Someday, somehow, you'll be able to be happy. Someday, somehow, you'll be able to enjoy your life. And so you play the game that the herd plays. You play the game that humanity plays. And it's a more different and better game. If you're unhappy, buy this. If you're unhappy, change that. If you're unhappy, change your relationships, change where you live, change your car, change your clothes, change your face. It's a never-ending game. And for many people, it gets to the point where you become depressed. You begin to feel that this is futile, life is futile, it's hopeless. It's never going to work. There's no point to it. And so your energy becomes drained, it becomes harder to get up in the morning, it becomes harder to do anything. It's a state of giving up, it's a state of just feeling like you can't take anymore. It's a state of resignation. Of course, when it comes to that, then addictions come into play. Alcohol, pot, prescription medication, television, food, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So what meditation offers is the possibility that maybe this doesn't have to go like that. Maybe what the Buddha said is true. Maybe what the Buddha said is that it's possible to discover that you're a dreamer, that you've been dreaming a bad dream. And just because everybody is dreaming the same bad dream, that doesn't not make it a dream. Just because most of the 8 billion people are living life in a mistaken, ignorant way, that doesn't make it right. Just because most of the 8 billion people are neurotic, that doesn't mean that you have to be neurotic. And so it's possible to wake up and see things as they are. See who you are. See life as it is. And begin to become free of the suffering that would otherwise be the case. The root of the suffering, the root cause of the suffering, is this ignorance. This ignorance about who we are, who you are, and this ignorance about life. This ignorance that has us continue to believe that life should be different than it is. This ignorance that has people continue to believe that they are a physical body, that time is real, that they are a person, a personality. Even though if you investigate, if you do an inquiry, if you look to see where is this personality, it's very easy to see that it's nowhere to be found. This is one of the basic teachings in Buddhism. It's called no self. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is look and see that what's actually true is there, and this is always actually true. This is what the evidence says, that what there is awareness and that which the awareness is aware of. That's all there is. Awareness of thoughts and thoughts, awareness of feelings and feelings, awareness of perceptions and perceptions. If you look, it's not hard to see that that's all there is. Awareness and what there is to be aware of. There is no person involved. And one of the major mistakes that people make when they attempt to practice meditation, and I suspect that a lot of people who consider themselves established meditators have done a lot of psychological damage to themselves. Because one of the basic mistakes in meditation is to practice meditation as a person, to think that you are meditating. You as a person are meditating. And if you practice that way, you're perpetuating the mistake. You're perpetuating the source of human ignorance, which is that there is a you that's meditating. When you're meditating, all there is awareness and that which the awareness is aware of. There is no you meditating. And if you think there is and you practice as if there's a you meditating, you're perpetuating the problem. You're making it worse. You'll then believe that you're a person that's aware. You'll become spiritual. This is worse than basic ignorance, is to become a spiritual person, is worse than basic ignorance. Because there's nothing more scary and destructive than somebody that thinks they know what they don't know. And the reality of it is, and it's easy to see if you look, is that it's not a person meditating. It's awareness aware of the body when you meditate. Awareness is aware of the body. There is no person meditating. And it can actually make meditation a lot easier if you practice it the way it's meant to be practiced. And that's why I like the Zen approach. It's very simple. You sit still and be quiet. Watch the breath. But when the breath is being watched, it's very, very important to understand that it's not you, the person, watching the breath. That's the opposite of meditation. It's awareness aware of the breath. This is the correction that can change everything. This is the correction that can end the suffering. Because if it becomes clear to you, not just because you hear the words and you hear the concepts and you believe the words of the concepts, but because you look for yourself and you see what's actually the case. And if you look for yourself and you see what's actually the case, and you see for yourself directly that there is no evidence of a person, and if this becomes a conviction, if you begin to actually live your life from a ground of being, of awareness, from a ground of being that you are awareness, not a person, this will end suffering. Because if there's no person, there's no one to suffer. All there is awareness and what's happening. And that's the freedom of being awake. To live life as an awake, aware awareness, aware of what's happening. No conflict, no thinking that it should be different than it is. No struggling, no being at odds with life, no being at odds with yourself. This is called the natural state. The natural state. Just being present to life as life is and being yourself. It's very simple. But as I said in the last class, although it's very simple and although it's very easy to recognize the truth, to recognize that you are awareness, it's very easy to do that. All you have to do is answer the question, are you aware? And if you answer the question yes, then you have looked and noticed awareness. And it's very easy to understand that without that awareness, there would be no life. You would not be here. Therefore, that must be you. That must be the ground of being. And that's not hard to do. What is hard, having recognized the truth, having noticed the truth of awareness as your true self, as your true nature, what is hard is then to live from that, to live as that. Because your brain and your mind have been completely, thoroughly conditioned and programmed to operate as though you are a physical body and you're a person. And that will continue to happen. And you have such a highly developed habit of listening to the voice in your head and following it, right? That even after seeing the truth and being convinced that awareness is the truth of who you are, you will fall very easily right back into being a person. Meaning that you will fall very easily right back into listening to the thoughts as your thoughts, following the thoughts as if the thoughts are true. One of the things that's evident and relatively easy to recognize if you pay attention is that thoughts are thoughts. They are not the truth. Thoughts are interpretations. They are not the truth. And if you pay attention to thoughts and you stop identifying with them, it's not hard to see how could they be the truth. How could they be the truth? How could you be so clear, and how could you be so totally intelligent that the thoughts you have are the thoughts that are true? And if it was the case that the thoughts you had were the thoughts that were true, then your life should work. But it doesn't for almost nobody. If you look, all you have to do is see what are you start paying attention to the thoughts, you'll see that most of the thoughts that occur in your mind are relatively crazy. Thoughts about what's right and wrong, thoughts about whether somebody should lose weight, whether somebody's ugly, whether somebody's beautiful, whether somebody is smart, whether somebody is dumb, who should be the president, what the weather should be, how much you should weigh, how you should look, what you should know, where you should go, where you should not go. It's craziness, insane. And so you could say that practicing meditation and learning about the teachings that go along with meditation are a process of going sane. You say, how do you know that you're the awareness and not the person? Who's the you that you're referring to when you say, how do you know?
That would be the person.
Yeah, right. So see, what the mind will do is it will use whatever it can to keep you in the identity of being a person. Because the way the mind is conditioned and programmed is if you go out of that identity, you're dead. It's a survival reality. The mind is trying to help you to survive as a person. And so it will have you say, how do I know? Yeah, because you're asking the question as a person. You see? That's how slippery the slope is, right? And that's why you know, when you say, well, how do I know that I'm being the awareness when I'm meditating, right? You don't know that you're being the awareness when you're meditating as a person, you see? All you can do is simply notice the mind. If you see that's how you know. If you're noticing thoughts as thoughts, then you would notice that the question you asked was just a thought. And when that is seen for what it is, it's seen from the awareness. That's how you know. You know you're being the awareness when you know what you're not, right? That's what I said the other day, right? Once you're clear about the truth of who you are, then the practice becomes practicing not being who you're not. That's much more difficult and much more complicated than just seeing the truth of who you are as awareness. That's easy to see. That's why people, you know, if you look at the teachers who are teaching people about consciousness and supporting people in being awake, right? What are the people? Check it out. I mean, really, go online and listen to the people that go to Muji or Rupert or any of the teachers, right? Listen to what they're saying. Listen to where they're coming from. It's always the same thing. I thought I had it. I had a glimpse of it. I felt relieved. I felt joy. I felt love. I felt free. And then it went away. It's always the same story. Right? And the thing about it is they get duped into the idea that here's the thing, it's very simple. They get duped into the idea that it can go away. How can it go away? It can't go away. It's never not here, right? What happens is it doesn't go away. A thought arises, you identify with the thought, and once you identify with the thought, you're in the person. You're back in the person again, right? And then the person says, it went away. And if you believe what the person says, if you believe that thought, right, now the person's complaining about they had it and they lost it. All you have to do is see it for what it is and realize you can't lose what you are. You can't lose awareness. It's never not here. It's always present, right? And if you understand that, then you don't have a problem in terms of thinking that you had it and you lost it. You understand that in the beginning of this process of stabilizing being the awareness, in the beginning of the process of stabilizing being an awareness, you have what some people call the flip-flop. You go in it, you're out of it, you're in it, you're out of it, you're in it, you're out of it. But if you understand what that is, and that's why it's good to have a guide, if you understand what that is, that's not a problem. It's not a problem, it's just part of the process. It's a gradual awakening that's occurring. And for most human beings, the awakening is a gradual awakening. Unfortunately, they use the ideals, the ones that they emanate are the people that had an all of a sudden complete awakening, like Ramana Maharshi. An all of a sudden complete awakening, right? And so that's the ideal that the people envision. Well, I'm going to wake up, and when I wake up, I'll be awake, and that's it. I won't be asleep again. I'll be happy. I'll be blissful. Life will be easy. That's very much the unusual situation. And so that's not a good, that's not a good way to understand awakening. For almost everybody else, awakening is a gradual process. And you could even say the fact that you're here, because, I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I've talked before about no free will and predetermination, right? You could even say the fact that you're here is the process of awakening happening. People who are new here, I'll say this, don't worry about understanding it, right? But the fact that you're here means that who you really are as awareness has begun to wake up. That's why you were interested in being here. It happens by itself. It's like a flower blossoming, right? It's the seed is in every human being. The seed of awareness is in every human being. Whether it blossoms or not is another story. But if you're here, if you've begun to be interested in meditation, if you've begun to be interested in the possibility that there's another way of experiencing yourself in your life, then that seed has begun to grow. And when that seed begins to grow, you hear the Dharma. The Dharma is the teaching of the truth. When that seed begins to grow, you hear the Dharma, and the Dharma occurs to you like water watering a seed. The Dharma occurs to you like something that when you hear it, it's like it clicks. You have this natural understanding of it. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I see that, right? That's the awakening process. That's the awakening process. And if you stay with it and you don't reject it because there are things that you hear that you don't understand, but you trust the process and you have somebody that understands the process that can guide you, and you stay with it, then even what you don't understand will eventually become clear. And I know from those of you who have been coming to the class that has to be the case. Isn't it? Isn't it the case that I have said things here or you have read things, right? And at the time you heard them or read them or heard some other teacher talking about them, you didn't understand it. You didn't know what. But if you stay with it, gradually the popcorn starts to pop. Gradually, the concepts that you didn't understand, all of a sudden it's, oh, I see that now. It's like that. Oh, I see that now. And it keeps going, where you start seeing more and more, and the understanding gets deeper and deeper until, as Ramesh Balsekar says, until the final understanding. Yeah. And what he calls the final understanding is the understanding that the link pin, the thing that keeps you in the idea of being a person, is the idea that you can do something, that you can do anything. That's the link pin. That's the thing the person will hold on to more than anything else, is don't tell me that I can't do anything. Don't tell me that I'm not a doer. That's the thing that human beings cherish, right? What I can accomplish. That's what our society conditions us to believe is most important of all, is what you can accomplish, right? That's what made Nike the money. Just do it, right? Be a doer, just do it, right? So this whole society is built on doing, being the source of the actions that you take, being a responsible person. And so the mind and the personality and the person will reject that, keep rejecting that as long as it can. Here's the problem with that. What if it's true? See, that's the thing. That's the thing that you have to consider, What if it's true? The people that say that it's true, they're not making stuff up. And they've been around the block a few times, What if it's true? And what they say is, if you pay attention, if you actually look and analyze what you think you do, you will be able to see that that's not true. It's relatively easy in terms of understanding that anything that you do, you think to do first, yes? And it's not hard to see if you do some inquiry and you pay attention that the thoughts that occur in your mind are coming from you. Therefore, you're not doing anything. Your conditioning and your DNA has determined every thought that occurs in your mind, and every thought that occurs in your mind happens before you take action. And there's nothing you can do about it. And while on the surface that may seem like a problem, if you really get to a place where you're convinced that it's true, and therefore you begin to live with that truth, life gets pretty simple, right? Because now you don't have to worry about what you're doing. You understand it's not coming from you. You don't have to be guilty about anything in the past. You don't have to feel shame about anything in the past. You don't have to feel pride or feel like you're better than anybody about anything that you do. All of it's off the table. Life becomes simple. You just live life is occurring moment to moment. And in that moment to moment life, you will still have to operate with the idea that you are making decisions and making choices. That's just a necessary way of functioning in the world. There's no other way to do it. But nonetheless, even though that appears to be the case, it is possible to have an understanding that it is not you. It's never you, it's never been you, and it never will be you. And while the mind may resist that and fight against it, if it is accepted and it is seen to be true, that's enlightenment. That's enlightenment. Because can you suffer? No, you can't suffer. That's why in that, thy will be done, right? Thy will be done, not your will. And that famous psalm, that Psalm 23, which is my favorite psalm, my cup runneth over. I'm already fulfilled. That's what that means. I'm already fulfilled. There's nothing that I need to accomplish, nothing I need to do. I know who I am, I know what's true, and now all there is to do is celebrate my life. My cup runneth over. Thou preparest the table before me. That's what that means. It's all already done. Okay. The thing about it is you have to accept the fact that this is a process in which there will be confusion, right? Your mind will try and talk you out of it. You know, your mind will tell you that this is a cult, this guy's crazy, stay home, you're not good at meditating, don't try it, forget it. And you have to be able to persist through all of that. That's the path. You have to be able to walk the path. You have to be able to persist through all of that and know that that's just the mind trying to keep you to survive as a person. And if you stay with it, the day will come when the mind will change and the mind will have been sufficiently trained to accept the truth. And then there won't be any conflict anymore. The mind will be on board. It won't be trying to survive something that never existed. Okay. Have a good evening.
All right, thanks.